Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kyra, and here on this channel, we're all about real makeup for real life and real people. So today's video is a very exciting one for me. I received this as a request or a suggestion from a subscriber and fellow YouTuber. So the request was to take my NATASHA DENONA palettes and create a fall palette using the shadows as singles. So since I have quite a few NATASHA DENONA palettes, I decided to go with the midi size shadows today, but let me know in the future if you'd like me to do this video again using all of my larger NATASHA DENONA palettes, and I would be more than happy to do that because I can tell you already, because I'm future Kyra, that this was a lot of fun. So with all that said, let's get into creating the palette. All right guys, here we are. The first place that we have to start is to take all of the shadows out of the palettes. All right, holy moly. I do think I'm gonna go ahead and try and choose 15 shades to fill up one of these palettes that I just took everything out of. And this is gonna be harder than I thought it was going to be. I definitely want to represent some berry in this palette. And this shadow here is from the Retro palette. This is just a really beautiful sort of a berry matte shadow. And I just think it would be really pretty in a fall palette. It'd be nice for depth, but it'd be nice for a lid shade or what have you as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep that one out. Another shade that I really would like to see represented in this palette is this one here, which I believe is from the ZENDO palette. It is one of her cream to powder shades, and I just really want a beautiful greenish teal in this palette, so I'm gonna put that one up here as well. I think this would be a fun shade to include in the palette as well. This is from the ZENDO palette. I don't remember the name, but it is like a warm base with a bit of a green shift to it. So I think that would be really pretty. And while we're at it, how about a nice turquoise lid shade? This is also from the ZENDO palette. This is the shade from the bronze palette that is just one of my absolute favorites. It's just kind of a rosy terracotta shade, and I think it's going to be really beautiful with these tones in this palette. Another shade I would like to include, which would be a beautiful bronze shade, probably a richer bronze shade, something a little deeper. I believe this is Palladium from the bronze palette. Let's see how she goes. Oh yeah, that's pretty. I like that a lot. You can see the color story coming together. I also would like to include some sort of like a deep burgundy shade. This is from the Love palette. That's more of a berry than a burgundy, isn't it? I know this is looking pretty dark right now, but I'm really looking to anchor this palette first and then go in and find some beautiful lid shades to add in. This is really pretty from the Love palette. It's definitely kind of a burgundy shimmer, which could definitely be pretty. Well, maybe if we go on and pick some lighter matte shades to go with this color story, I'll feel a little differently. One of my favorite mattes in the bronze palette, but also just in my Natasha Denona collection in terms of a neutral shade. So go ahead and add that one in. And then I think we should have a lighter matte or like a transition type shade that would work with a little bit more cool tone shadows. So I think I'll put this one in. This is from the GLAM palette. So I think what I want to do now is go ahead and swatch what we have and then maybe find what holes we might have in our color story. So this is what we have going on color story wise. I do think this shade, which I believe is the shade Silk, would be a beautiful addition to the palette. It's just so like liquidy. It's so pretty. So I think I'll add that. I feel like I need some more lid shades in here, some lightness up in this area. This is one of the shades from the Love palette. Too gold, too similar. This is from GLAM. I don't know. I don't know if that really goes with the vibe or not. We'll put it up there just to marinate on that. I really keep thinking that I want to add this green shadow here. This is like a deep army green. It is from the ZENDO palette again. So again, getting a lot of use out of that palette in this project. But again, I think this would go nicely with the taupe, with the golds that we've chosen. So I'm going to add that up here. I think part of what is throwing me off is this turquoise shade. So I'm gonna put this over here for right now. Another shade that I thought could be fun in this palette, I know we're looking for lighter shades, but we can work with it. This is a beautiful purple from the Love palette. I think that's a beautiful fall color, so I'm gonna throw that up there. I definitely like that more than seeing the turquoise. I also really love this shade called Vivian from the Retro palette. I know what these shade names are pretty well because I just finished reviewing, but it's a beautiful blending shade. It can work as a transition shade in some looks, as well as I really like it for like a matte lid shade. Another shadow I think could be fun would be possibly this purple from the Love palette. That is such a pretty shade. Does it make? Ooh, yes, I like that a lot. Okay, I'm gonna put this up here, and I actually think I'm going to put this one back. And then I really want to throw something deep dark in here just for like outer corner purposes. So we have a few options, I feel like. This one is the shade Apart from the Retro palette. Nice, sort of cool toned cream to powder shadow. This is a deep dark purple from the Love palette. Definitely purple. And then we have this shade, which I believe is called Deep Dive from Bronze, which is sort of like an indigo color. And I honestly feel like I want to go with the purple. I feel like the purple would work with any of these. I feel like it could go with the green, the teal, the other purple, the more berry shade. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose that. This is another shade from ZENDO that I think is really beautiful. Sort of a milk chocolatey brown shimmer. But is it too similar to this one? No. The question is, do we need both? This is 15 shades, but are they the 15 shades that we want in this palette. I feel like Vivian, as much as I like it, is not fitting well with this, so I'm going to take this one out. I do have this other duochrome shadow here, or maybe we just need to add another matte. I have this shade, this is the shade Bliss from the bronze palette. It's kind of like a NARS Orgasm, where it's like got a pink base and a lot of gold glitter, but this also has like a tinge of green, so maybe that would be cool. Other thing I'm considering is taking out this shadow and putting in that shadow. I kind of like that. I think that's actually really nice. All right, let's swatch this little color story here before we make our final decision. All right, so here is the color story. I like it. What are you? Still feel like I'm a little short on brightening shades. I just feel like I need a little bit more. And this is like a nice pink that has a gold shift to it from the Love palette. Okay, so I feel like I was craving some jewel tones, and I actually really like how this looks right now. Okay, I like this arrangement. I'm gonna pop them in the palette now. This should be very satisfying. Ta-da! I really like how it looks in this packaging from the bronze palette. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean things up, turn the camera around, give you some swatches, and create a quick look with my new palette. Guys, here we are, and it's time to play with the palette that I built. Again, it looks like so. And I'm gonna start out with this shade right here, which happens to be the shade Beach from the bronze palette. Next, I'm gonna go into another shade from the bronze palette. This is the shade Sundown. And I'm not typically a big fan of like mustard shadows on my eyes, even though it's like one of my favorite colors to wear and decorate with. I love mustard yellow. I just think it can look kind of weird on my eyes, but maybe it's just about applying a transition shade that I like. I'm gonna go into this deep green down here for the outer corner. This is from the ZENDO palette. It's the shade Zeal. And I'm just picking up a little dense domed brush, and I'm going to work on the outer corner. Smoke it out. I'm glad I went ahead and included this in the palette. I felt like maybe it was a little too predictable because I love green, but I think these shades are just so appropriate for fall, and I just had to include it. All right, next I'm gonna go into this beautiful turquoise cream to powder shade. Again, this is from the ZENDO palette, and it is the shade Mantra. And I'm gonna apply this over most of the lid because the last shade, the shimmer shade, I really would like to layer over this shade. That is beautiful and very fallish. I'm feeling very inspired by this palette, very inspired. Well, I want to reinforce that dark green on the outer corner. So I'm gonna go back in with that same flat brush and the shade Zeal from the ZENDO palette. and just kind of pat this on the outer corner a little bit. All right, and then I want to go into this beautiful shade again from ZENDO. Yeah, using a lot of ZENDO shades today. It is the shade Yama. It's a beautiful duochrome. Has kind of a warm base, but it also has a green shift to it, and I think it's just gonna be really pretty over this teal base that I put on. She's definitely smoky. All right, time for some spray. Still using that shade. Still using the same shade. I'm just going to wet it a little bit. Try and punch up that shine, especially in the center and on the mobile lid closest to the upper lash line. So I do feel like this needs, you know, a decent amount of building up and a little help from the spray and things like that, but it is a beautiful shade. Just gonna take that brush that had the deep green on it and run just a little bit of this on the lower lash line. And lastly, I'm gonna go into this shade right here, which is from the GLAM palette. It's the shade labeled Brow Bone. I'm gonna take a little tiny bit of this shade down, and well, it's the last shade in the palette here. It is the shade Silk, and just put a little bit of this kind of in the center of the eye, and then take my clean finger and tap over. Just a little something extra, maybe. Lovely. All right. I'm gonna pop off of here really quick, do liner, mascara, lip, the hair, the whole thing. I'll come back and show you the completed look, and it'll look a lot like I did in my intro. All right, this is the completed look. Let me know what you think of it down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, this is what my palette looks like. I really enjoy how it came out. I did send a picture to my bestie Jess, and she said she was loving these 6 shadows over here, which I happen to agree with because they're the ones that I used in this look in addition to this one up here. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put some close-up and live swatches up on the screen here, but I think we ended up with a really cohesive color story. We're talking jewel tones, warm tones, a little bit of coolness in there, which I also like for fall. And ultimately, we ended up with 1 shadow from the Retro palette, 2 shadows from the GLAM palette, and then 4 shadows each from the Love, Bronze, and ZENDO palettes. Maybe not at all what I expected this to turn out as, but I am so happy with this. I'm very much considering taking this with me on my trip to Nebraska. It just seems like a fun palette, something that I would enjoy wearing on the daily while I'm there, so we'll see. But do let me know down below in the comments if you would like to see more looks with this palette that I built. If you had to name this palette, what would you name it? I just don't know, but you guys are so creative. I've done this before where I created a custom palette and you guys named it for me. So if you have any suggestions for a little name for this, let me know down below. I also have over on my Instagram pictures, swatches, close-up photos of the look, just like I'll have inserted here. So if you want a closer look, head over to Instagram, which I will put on the screen here magically. And thank you for hanging out with me today. I had so much fun doing this. And if you do like this kind of content, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Then we'll be sure to see each other in the next video. And I hope all of your makeup days are absolutely beautiful custom eyeshadow makeup days. And I'll see you in my next one real soon.